legal regime and without certain territorial limits. A potential member of the Almaty RFC should have an office on its territory, while benefits and advantages will be provided by the principle of registration as an RFC participant and settlement of transactions with securities at a special trading ground of the financial centre. To reassure participants of the financial centre, an RFC court will be created on the territory of Almaty. Toward the aim of successful development of the centre is participants will be offered economic incentives and tax benefits. In particular, it is planned to grant them with an immunity from corporate income tax regardless of whether they are residents of Kazakhstan or not. Their incomes wouldn't be cut by the principle of price appreciation, increment of value, and their reward and dividends will be free from payment for financial instruments used at the Almaty RFC ground. Economic incentives for issuers include partial compensation of expenses for an audit depending on volumes of the issue, discounts for listing down to zero level in the first year of activity of the Almaty RFC, registration with the financial centre free of charge. Foreign citizens and persons without citizenship arriving on the territory of Kazakhstan for activities at the Almaty RFC will get an entrance visa right in the Almaty International Airport. RFC participants will be given the opportunity to run paperwork in English language only, and resolutions of an executive body will be also translated into English. Of course, the basis of the Kazakhstani economy is the oil and gas sector. The country has 172 oil, 42 condensate and 94 gas deposits. Proved reserves, without taking the Caspian Shelf into account, reach 21 billion barrels of oil and gas condensate, while probable reserves at Kazakhstan's Caspian fields are estimated at 100 billion barrels. Today, the country's oil and gas sector attracts 58% of total foreign investment. By estimation of international experts, the extractable resource potential of Kazakhstan stands at nearly 9 trillion. But in order to extract these resources, an investment of 500 billion is required. Kazakhstan enters the number of major oil powers of the world by size of expected resources of hydrocarbons when taking its Caspian fields into account. By explored resources of natural gas, the nation occupies 15th place in the world. Already, Kazakhstan's oil and gas sector provides more than 30% of all tax income and more than 40% of currency proceeds. At present, Kazakhstan is preparing for development of large reserves of the Caspian Shelf. According to the latest geological exploration, extractable resources of oil in the Kazakhstani part of the Caspian Sea are estimated at 8 billion tons. 64% of expected resources are located offshore and 36% onshore. The government has worked out a state program of development of the Kazakhstani sector of the Caspian Sea. It is the largest project for Kazakhstan for the next 30 years.
Kazakhstan is at the crossroad of civilizations and a major contributor to the energy supply of the world. Kazakhstan has had an extraordinary economic and political development. It is now undergoing a process of political evolution which is reflective of its importance in the region.
But our country firmly intends to leave resources orientation of the economy behind and reach high parameters of stable development. The economy's priority for the next 7 years is development of high-tech productions, and its share in the GDP index should increase tenfold. That's why prospects of investment into Kazakhstani economy go beyond the oil and gas sphere and that of metallurgy. Adoption of the 2015 Industrial and Innovation Development Strategy in fact, became the beginning of a new stage of economic reform. Production of competitive and export-oriented goods in the processing industry and effective use of potential in development of the innovation sphere should become the main priorities of diversification of the Kazakhstani economy and its turning away from its dependence on resources. A close combination of science and production should become a key factor of industrial and innovation development. The first strategic task is to attract major transnational companies which possess high technologies into the economy of Kazakhstan. It is planned to select 20 to 25 such companies for work in such prospective fields as petrochemistry, machinery building, mechanical engineering, and informatization. Work is already underway on preparing proposals on future projects, attraction of capital, and up-to-date technologies of international corporations and creation of joint productions. Innovation activities in the country will be carried out along with the parallel creation of principally new economic territorial structures, technological parks, business incubators, regional innovation funds and venture enterprises. Kazakhstan invites businessmen from all over the world working in the high-tech industry to take part in these major projects. Besides natural resources, the country has yet another wealth, its favorable location. The transit and transport potential of Kazakhstan is estimated at $2 billion a year. Kazakhstan could reach this level of income from transit through its territories by the 2020s. As for today, the country collects more than $150 million from transit. Realization of a project by Trans-Kazakhstani Railroad alone could gain profits of up to $1 billion a year, since this transport corridor will link Asia-Pacific countries with the main markets in Europe, Russia and the Middle East. Development of transit motor roads also promises great benefits. The international airports of Astana and Almaty, which meet the highest requirements and which enjoy favorable locations, will, in the near future, become major transit hubs of global importance. Kazakhstan, a country of inexhaustible resources, a country of giant opportunities. Kazakhstan pursues ambitious goals and strives to become one of the world's most dynamically developing nations and with high living standards to match. Today, plans to enter the club of the 50 most competitive nations and then to enter the top 10 may seem fanciful. However, Kazakhstan's 2030 development strategy, adopted in 1997, also seemed fantastic. Then the country lived poorly, and many considered Nursultan Nazarbayev a dreamer. It turns out, however, that Kazakhstan is not only able to fulfill the strategy, but also to excel in the plans it mentions. For example, it was planned to double the volume of economy by 2010. Kazakhstan will reach this goal as early as the beginning of 2008. It was planned to increase the volume of economy by 3.5 times by 2015. But now, it will happen much earlier. Kazakhstan undoubtedly will be among the 50 leading nations. Persistence and an ability to reach defined aims are the main traits of the country's president Nursultan Nazarbayev, whoever you ask. And many Kazakhstanis wishing to live in the new century in a fundamentally new country strive for adoption of this characteristic of their leader. Kazakhstan, a treasure of the Great Steppe. Kazakhstan, a symbol of renewal of the planet.